Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a subject to you that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And that is the idea that a closed system can yield non-diminishing returns or results. Maybe that makes sense right off the bat, but I'm going to explain it. So there's this hazard of thinking that a closed system, that is, something that can be completely managed 100%, has very few, if any, uh, random things that can happen inside of it by design. It is perhaps expressible via a flowchart or managed by a flowchart sometimes. And there's this hazard, and I want to highlight that, where people can fall victim to the idea that a closed system can be like the entire world or society, and it can just be managed that way. And there's a very logical and definite problem with thinking like this. And that is, somebody has to pay eventually. Somebody has to pay, and somebody has to be happy enough that is not living in a closed system, which is analogous to a prison, really, when things are managed on that level, no matter how you set it up. People have to be happy enough to be able to produce things of quality. And I'm quite sure that morale and creativity are very, very closely connected. That when people have to live in an artificial closed system, the quality of life and the quality of work both taper off measurably. So what you end up with by implementing a closed system style of management, where you have a lot of rules and expectations, and everything is expected to be managed and allocated, you end up with a I'm making my potatoes 1 second here. You end up with a system that has sorry, I was trying to be fancy with my potatoes. So you end up with a system that is paramount to a cash grab, because you have diminishing returns, as mentioned before. Diminishing returns. So you can do this, actually. You can do this in local areas. You can create like a compound or a prison, an actual prison, or you can create borders around an area like a country that does this in principle and becomes extremely efficient and regimented is the word. But we've seen this in the past, and there are many, many problems that start to arise. You begin to have protesters, because it's not a supportable way of life for the people who are supporting the elite at that point. And it's a cash grab, because it is, as soon as you roll that kind of system out, as soon as it is implemented in earnest, there's a ticking clock. After which, when it gets to zero, it's counting down, presumably, there's no more opportunity. There's going to be revolution. There's going to be unrest, strife. Something's got to give at that point, because there's not a positive influx of quality products and spirit, I guess, is really what it comes down to. In a closed system, you have a lot of control of the people and the system parts, but you have a diminishing return as far as the things that depend on chance and choice. That's really the point. You have a diminishing returns in any closed system, because you have gotten rid of all of the things that depend on chance and choice. So people still try to do this all the time. They try to do this all the time. And it works for a minute. And that's what I mean by the cash grab part. So it's like, for example, in the 80s, there was terrestrial radio. It was huge. It was like, you tuned into the radio just because you knew that your friend across town was very likely listening to the same song at the same time. You could even call into the station half the time. And we don't so much do this. We still have terrestrial radio a little bit, but it's been largely replaced by subscription services that are digital via satellite or other internet service providers. But here's the thing. There is a huge new challenge in searching and finding new content. I mean, they do their best to kind of give you a little sample here and there. They put it in ads, but it's so it's not wide open, and people, the younger people, they have no idea, you know, what to search for that came, you know, perhaps before, unless they were exposed to it by their parents or whoever. But point is that there's a cash grab. A cash grab is going on with the subscription-based entertainment services as well, riding that the last vestige of that wave of free entertainment that happened in the 80s. Okay? It's almost completely gone. You can just barely make it out anymore. But the point is that there are many cash grabs. Cash grabs. That's like you know, land grab, where there's only so much of it, and then when it gets all grabbed up, there's nothing left until either someone, you know, moves on, dies, or more is made somehow. So that's the same with the closed system. And this isn't going to be a super long video, but people keep falling victim to this ideology where your need to manage things, your desire to be in control as an administrator, drives you to make bad choices, fear-based choices, where you end up sacrificing the autonomy, the liberty, and the choices, the chance of the people, and there's a diminishing return from it. Last thing I'll say is, unfortunately, many administrators already know this. They just don't talk about it. They already know that it's a golden parachute kind of thing, where they're just taking what they can and slashing and burning, and at the end of it, they bail out. And God help the rest of us. So recognize this stuff. Recognize closed system management styles. You don't exist to extend some demon at the top of the pile. That's not what you're here for. You're here to discover what you're here for, and it ain't that, if you pardon my expression. So reach out with questions or comments. Be happy. Be independent. Decide for yourself what's important. What's important to me doesn't need to be important to you. Have a great day.